Happy holidays from us to you here at Comicstorian. Today we're going to be covering 4 of the stories in the DC Holiday Special. Not much more to say about this. I hope you enjoy. We're going to begin our Christmas tales with Batman. 'Twas the night before Christmas. Many years ago, a young homeless boy and his grandmother walked door to door in a blizzard trying to seek shelter in some nearby homes. After being denied by one last home, they made it clear that they weren't welcome. The young boy and his grandmother continued to wander through the blizzard hoping for some sort of relief. The next morning, the officers found the young boy alone, and not far from him was the frozen body of his grandmother. As the police help the boy into their car, the ghost of the young boy's grandmother appears before him, telling him that she will never leave him. No matter what anyone says, she will be there. In the current times, Alfred drives Batman into the snow asking why is it that they're headed into the wilderness with a blizzard on the way. Batman tells him that it's just a hunch. Some family friends, the Brandons, they were captured at gunpoint as they were headed to Mount Harley. That place is a no man's land. Officially, it doesn't exist, so no firemen, police, and just them. As the car stops, Batman gets out and he begins to walk through the snow until he reaches a particular house. Inside, the young boy, Fritzy, now an adult, listens to his grandmother asking if he's ready to share what they planned for their guests. Fritzy says that he's not so sure about this. The tied-up couple ask each other, who is he even talking to? The grandmother shouts that she is sure ready. When the clock strikes 12, the hour that their father thrust them into the cold hell, that her grandson is going to shoot them. Fritzy begins to speak to his grandmother, stating that their father wouldn't help them and his grandmother died because of it. And the clock strikes 12. And at that moment, Fritzy's grandmother shouts, "Go do it, you dumb child! Kill them all!" Fritzy's hand trembles holding the gun, and as he starts to cry, he asks, does he really have to? And then there's a thud from the chimney, and Batman tells him, "Drop the gun." Batman quickly disarms Fritzy, and he begins to work on untying the couple. Fritzy looks at his grandmother and he tells her that he wants her to go away and never come back. And without saying a word, the grandmother disappears. Now we have a Green Arrow story. You better think twice. Over at St. Joseph's Orphanage in Star City, the orphanage caretaker asks the young girl, May, if she's ready to meet Santa. She leans up stating that he's not coming. Rodney told her that Santa doesn't come if you don't have parents. The caretaker pulls out her phone stating that that's not true. Santa visits every year. In fact, he should be here any minute. Outside of the doors of the orphanage, Ollie in his Santa costume shouts, "Ho, ho, ho!" And Dinah in her Mrs. Claus costume grumbles that she can't believe that he talked her into this. Ollie tells her, "Come on! Santa is a symbol of fairness and generosity, and it's that kind of special magic that kids hold on to. You of all people know how badly orphans need a little magic." Dinah fixes her wig, stating that dressing up like a geriatric candy cane isn't going to help. Life's hard and they need to learn to face that fact. Ollie tells her, "Come on, wouldn't you have liked a little unreality yourself back then? Just even for a night?" Dinah begins to tell him, well, maybe. But then suddenly the sound of screeching tires fills the air. Across the street, a truck carrying Christmas presents is stopped by a robber as he shouts for the driver to get out. The driver says that he doesn't want any trouble, and before the robber can say another word, he is hit in the face with a boxing glove arrow. The robbers look up and Ollie pulls back on his bow, telling them, "Good news! Since it's Christmas Eve, you can all drop your guns and still go home." The robbers aimed their guns, and Ollie asks, "Why does everyone have to become such a Scrooge?" As Ollie and Dinah begin to beat up the robbers, Dinah says, "Jerks aren't nicer, the grass isn't green, and criminals don't take the holidays off. The pain and misery just gets buried underneath a mountain of cheap tinsel and blinking lights." Ollie knocks the last guy out, stating, "You can't mean that." And just as he does, the children from the orphanage come running out. Dinah begins to tell them that she's sorry, Mrs. Claus just... But before she can finish, the children all shout, "It's Black Canary! Black Canary's helping Santa! Is it true that you were an orphan too?" Mia runs up hugging Dinah, asking, did she help Santa find them so that they could have Christmas too? Dinah tells her of course. She just helped him save some time. He couldn't forget a special little girl like her. Mia hugs Dinah again, and Ollie asks, "You were saying? Ho ho ho!" And Dinah tells him, "Shut up. No one likes a sore winner." Next we have Going Down Easy with Sergeant Rock and Easy Company. As Rock lights his cigarette, he begins to tell a story. A story of how they were a part of a prisoner escort when a part of Easy Company and they got scattered in the woods. Private Hammerman ended up stuck by himself with a Nazi officer, and they were about half a mile away from the bulk of the troops. That's when there was an explosion from some far-off artillery that caught Hammerman and the officer. On the first night, the officer woke up before Hammerman to find Hammerman had been hit with shrapnel, and he had a wound that would most likely kill him. The officer gets up and begins to walk off when Hammerman wakes up, calling the man Fritz, telling him to get back here. The officer turns back, telling him that that isn't his name, and Hammerman grabbed his gun, telling him, "Look, Fritz, you think I really care?" On the second night, the officer told Hammerman that he's dying, and Hammerman says that he's been around in this war. "You don't get more than a few hours, a day if you're lucky." "Nah, no way, Fritz. I ain't dying. I'm already dead." The third night, the officer tried to fire Hammerman for his gun, but with one good punch, Hammerman knocked the officer down, and he regained control of it. On the fourth night, the officer asked if he was still alive, and Hammerman tells him, "Enough to pull the trigger, Fritz." The officer says that when he dies, he will run. Or maybe, if he was to let him go, they could both return home and live out their lives. Hammerman tells him, "Yeah, maybe. Or maybe you walk and give me an excuse to shoot. How many days has it been, Fritz?" On the fifth night, the officer gets up shouting that this is absurd. He can't move. No one is coming. They're both going to die from the cold out here. And Hammerman sits up telling him, "Come on. You gotta have faith." The officer says that he's fought the East for years. These Jews praying, families, children, all of them put in the line, trusting their faith has gotten them shot and gassed. They have faith. Now what do they have here? Hammerman laughs, telling him that last year his father, the great and disappointed rabbi, threw him out for going with the shiksa girl. He has nowhere to go, so he joined up with Uncle Sam to get himself a bed. The officer steps back, telling him, "You're a Jew, of course." Hammerman tells him, "Yeah, all those poor people on the line had faith, and now it's all gone. So where did it go? Well, looks like we got you." On the sixth night, the officer stands over Hammerman's lifeless body, and he begins to sing the Nazi anthem. He picks up Hammerman's rifle, and while he sings, he stops and hears Hammerman singing the next part. He looks back to see Hammerman pointing his pistol at him. The two men fire at each other, and they slump to the ground. On the seventh night, a week later, Rock found Hammerman with shrapnel in his belly and a bullet in his chest. He should have been long dead, but Hammerman looked up as Rock lifted him up, and he asked, "You get him?" Rock tells him, "Yeah, kid, we got him." Hammerman tells him, "Good." And then he draws his final breath. And now, on the eighth night, Rock lights his cigarette, telling the others, "It's been a long war. We have blood in our boots from the walking. And up ahead is nothing but more miles. I can't tell if we're going to last. Hell, it'll be a miracle if we do, but one thing I can tell you is that Easy Company won't be going down easy. You can have faith in that." Lastly, we have Solstice with Batman and Wonder Woman. December 22nd, days before Christmas. It is time for two people to reflect on their lives. One works in the dark and the other works in the light. Somebody has to. Somebody always has to. Every night there is more to do, and every day they ask if they are doing enough. There's always more to do, and it feels like it never ends. There will always be more to do, and the reason that it feels like it never ends is because it truly never ends. But no matter what, they will do it. The only other option isn't an option at all. When the goal is forever out of the reach, it is easy to lose heart. The only other option is to surrender, let the light die. And then again, he works best in the darkness. It is easy for one to fall prey to the darkness, but the work is not only about the result, but it's also about the journey and what they do along the way. Yes, for the one who lives in the darkness, he believes in the light, and the one who works in the light believes in the darkness. Some people call this a difficult season, and they are right. It is not enough to do, but they must be seen so that they can encourage others to act. For those who live in the darkness and those who live in the light, it is easy for each of them to feel alone, which brings us to this special night. As Diana and Bruce finish setting up their campfire, Bruce asks how many years have they been doing this. She tells him many. She cannot celebrate Solstice with her sisters, so she has chosen him, minus the wine and song, of course. Bruce says that he gets it, but why him? Clark would love this. It appealed to the Eagle Scout in him. Diana lights the torch, telling him that Clark doesn't need this. He makes his own light. But the two of them, they have a more intimate relationship with the darkness, and they must guard themselves against being consumed by it, and to remind themselves that the light always returns, even in the longest night. And there you have it, the first 4 stories of the holiday special. I'm gonna make this ending relatively quick. If you want to chat with me during the holidays, then hop on over to our Twitter at Comicstorian, or you can come on over to our Instagram at Comicstorian, or you can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/EligibleMonster. I hope you enjoy this season and enjoy this video. Thank you, and have a good one.